Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching a special broadcast here on DD India. And with me is a very special guest, the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister of Fiji, Professor Biman Prasad. Now, my guest needs no introduction, but just for the benefit of viewers tuning in from around the world, Professor Prasad also holds the ministerial portfolios of strategic planning, national development, and statistics. He has been the leader of the National Federation Party since 2014, and he is an economist by training. A quick word about Fiji as well. It is an island located in the southern Pacific Ocean. Fiji is home to a large Indian diaspora. It's a parliamentary democracy and a member of the Commonwealth. Mr. Minister, welcome to DD India. Or should I say Ram Ram as Indo-Fijians greet each other?
Ram Ram, and pleasure to be back in India again.
Great, sir. Good to see you. Mr. Minister, if you believe in statistics, which I am sure you do by virtue of being the Minister of Statistics, you will write your name in history books by becoming the first foreign leader to visit the new Ram temple at Ayodhya. How does that make you feel?
Well, Ram and Ramayana have been an integral part of Hindus who left India many years ago as part of indentured laborers. So with them, they carried Ramayana, Gita, and others, carried Quran and Bible. So all those people who left India under the indenture system, which the British executed to take Indian laborers to British colonies elsewhere. So in Fiji in particular, Ramayana, Gita have always been part of the Hindus' existence and their identity. So when one talks about Ayodhya, it immediately invokes the great feeling, the recital of the epic Ramayana, where Lord Ram returns to Ayodhya. And Diwali is a national holiday in Fiji, celebrated to mark the return of Lord Ram to Ayodhya, after 14 years of exile. So it does invoke a lot of yearning, emotion, and the feeling of connectivity and identity with India. So yes, it does invoke a lot of emotional ties with India.
Mr. Minister, tell us a bit, if you will, about how Indo-Fijians view the consecration of the temple at Ayodhya on the 22nd of January.
Well, it was marked by a massive celebration, jubilation in Fiji. In fact, the Indian High Commission in Fiji, together with Sri Sanatana Dharmapratinidhi Sabha of Fiji, which is the largest religious, Hindu religious body, and there were 5 national programs within the country. Apart from that, obviously we have this very large number of small Ramayana mandals, a feature which is probably unique to Fiji, where they recite Ramayana every week, whether it's a Tuesday or a Friday, and so all these
every week without fail.
Every week without fail, every fortnight without fail, depending on where across Fiji. And so to mark the occasion, there was this national celebration in all the temples, the mandalis, where Ramayana was recited, Ayodhya remembered, our forefathers remembered, as part of the journey of the Fiji Indians, in particular Hindus, who have maintained their language, culture, and religion. So and Fiji is now a multi-religious, multi-ethnic country. They built a culture of secularism. Secularism doesn't mean absence of religion or keeping religion away. It's about allowing all the faiths, including the Hindus, to practice their religion freely. And in Fiji, we've had this since the Indian indentured laborers went to Fiji in 1879 when the first shipload arrived there. So it's been a long journey.
So did they watch it live on TV
They,
on
they
the
did.
22nd?
In fact, I was part of the last program on the 22nd. And while there are other activities going on, there was a pause to watch the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji being part of the Pran Pratishtha celebration in Ayodhya on the 22nd. So it was a national event in many ways.
Mr. Minister, what does Lord Ram or the Ramayana mean for Indo-Fijians in the popular imagination?
Well, you know,
is it like a part of the everyday life?
It's part of everyday life. You know, it allowed Indian indentured laborers, you know, who, you know, the indenture system was quite brutal, you know, the atrocities, the struggles. And so many of them invoked the life of Lord Ram in exile, the struggles, the fight for justice, truth, triumph of good over evil. This was all part of their psychological being and giving them solace and giving them the energy, the drive to be able to pass through those atrocities. And today we are really grateful to our forefathers, you know, who went through that struggle and made sure. So Ramayana was a very, very integral and emotional part of the existence of a large majority of Hindus in Fiji. And today, you know, we have carved an identity as a Fijian. That's our country. No other country that we know. But, you know, we have a very, very deep connection with Bharat, with India, with our religious places. And a lot of these names, you know, Ramayana, you know, the story of Lord Ram. When you read Ramayana from Balkan to Uttarakhand, you know, you invoke the names of all the places, now named after cities, roads, rivers, you know, Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati, the Sangam of these rivers. These are all part of Ramayana that our people recite every day and talk about it. They may not have visited India, but obviously...
But do you think now with the temple in Ayodhya, more Indo-Fijians would like to
I'm sure
undertake a pilgrimage to Ayodhya?
I'm sure a lot of them do for years, and now more would want to come and visit there. But similarly, you know, many of them have been visiting India, you know, holy places, temples. Whenever people come to India, they would like to visit a temple at least. So, you know, it's part of the identity and the existence of Hindus and Indo-Fijians generally in Fiji.
And talking about the diaspora, Mr. Minister, how do Indo-Fijians stay connected to their roots, you know, the Hindu or Indic traditions, be it language or education in schools, for instance?
Well, I mean, Fiji, you know, we are really grateful that, you know, we have such a lovely country. We've had our own challenges in Fiji, you know, political upheavals, but by and large, you know, it's a country which is so beautiful. Our indigenous brothers and sisters are very, you know, majority of them are Christians. We've coexisted for many years, and the feeling that we have, and we've been allowed, you know, in fact, you know, under the British, it was religious groups, whether it was Christian groups, Muslim groups, Hindu groups, that actually built education facilities, schools. And today, you know, in Fiji, you know, for many years, it's probably the only country outside of India where Hindi was taught from class 1. So I have actually done Hindi from class 1 to 6, but I can speak, I can read, I can write, you know, I can read Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and all the holy books quite easily and without any difficulty. So Hindi has been an official language, and in fact, our government last year, you know, brought back Hindi as a language in Parliament together with our indigenous language and English. So I can stand up in Parliament and speak in Hindi, and that will be translated in English. So that's how, and the credit goes to our forefathers. Our nannies and ajis and great-grandparents, who went through that struggle, yet they kept the faith. And for Hindus, Ramayana, the life of Lord Ram, was invoked at every instant. And so today, for political leaders like myself, governance, fight for justice, fight for democracy, fight for freedom, fight for truth, is all
flows from the Ramayana.
Flows from the Ramayana. And so, it does provide, and so when you talk about Ayodhya, when you talk about Ramayana, that feeling, that emotions are invoked immediately, and it makes us feel very good.
Mr. Minister, tell us a bit about your ongoing visit to India. I believe you already met with India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar in New Delhi. How did those talks go?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Indian government and thank the Honorable External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar. We've had a very good one-hour meeting on a range of issues. In fact, since we came into power last year, my first visit was to India. And then subsequently, we had Dr. Jaishankar visit Fiji to attend and inaugurate the Old Hindi Conference and hold bilateral talks with our Prime Minister. Following that, we had the National Girmit Day celebration, Girmit Divas, which is now, for the first time in Fiji last year, our government actually made it a national public holiday. And that's in recognition of the contribution of our forefathers and in the social and economic fabric of our country today. And we've carved a new identity for Fiji. That Divas is specially designed to remember and mark the arrival of Indians as laborers in Fiji under the British, and how they have expanded their journey over a long period of time. And again, in that, we had the presence of the State Minister for External Affairs, Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan. We had the Lieutenant Governor of Lakshadweep, present. Then we had our Prime Minister attending the FIPIC, India-Pacific Summit in Papua New Guinea, where our Prime Minister presented to the Prime Minister of India the highest civilian award. And that was in recognition of the Honorable Prime Minister Modi's contribution as a leader globally, and also to the progress that India has made under his leadership, and also in recognition of the historical ties between Fiji and India. And so this visit is further cementing some of the discussions we've had. For example, Prime Minister Modi announced the construction of a super specialty, 100-bed super specialty hospital in Fiji, will be the hospital for the Pacific. And apart from that, there are many other smaller projects that we are talking about. So I had a very good meeting with him yesterday, and then there will be other meetings. I'll be traveling to Goa today, then to Ayodhya, and then to Ahmedabad to attend the Gujarati Parvasi event. And so it's a full program.
Absolutely. You referred to Prime Minister Modi and his stature. So I have to ask you this: how has the perception of India under Prime Minister Modi changed in Fiji or the region as a whole?
Well, since Prime Minister Modi ji visited Fiji in 2014, and the subsequent holding of the India-Pacific Summit in Fiji, then the second one was in Jaipur, and the third one was in Papua New Guinea. And I think India's global leadership was part of the Indo-Pacific strategy, the Quad group, and globally, and India's progress, economic progress, the fast economic growth that we see. India is probably the leading country in terms of economic growth. And so, all these, shows India's global preeminent, leadership, particularly leadership of the global South. And we are very delighted as a country to be part of that, global, progress. And for us, as people of Indian origin, but more generally as countries in the Pacific, I mean, the rise of countries like India also means good for us. And so, we are all very delighted at the progress.
You refer to the Indo-Pacific. Now, the Indo-Pacific as a geography has acquired a salience of its own of late. Do you believe that India is reinvesting itself in the Indo-Pacific and the Southern Pacific in particular, and that it bodes well for the region?
It does, and because as a government, our Prime Minister has, for example, talked about the Pacific region as a zone of peace, as an ocean of peace. And that, I think, is a very important idea and concept. And I think as part of the Indo-Pacific strategy, which India is part of, the Quad group, this is all about, maintaining peace and stability, democracy, respect for human rights, freedom. These are fundamental, universal values that any, good country believing in the rights of people generally would respect that. So, Fiji, as I said, our Prime Minister is right at the forefront, talking about, the Pacific as a zone of peace. And it fits into the overall Indo-Pacific strategy of this idea of democracy, this idea of freedom, this idea of respect for human rights and economic progress, with those within those kind of environment.
You refer to the Indo-Pacific strategies of countries in the region and beyond. In that strategy comes the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, the IPEF. Is there scope for India or Fiji to collaborate more in that respect?
Precisely. In fact, part of we've already signed we're part of the IPEF, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. We are actually one of the smaller countries, which is prominently featured in that. And part of my visit to India, really, and other ministers, my colleague, the tourism minister, visited India 2 weeks ago, and he was very excited with the talks that he had. We want Indian investment in Fiji. We want Indian tourists in Fiji. We recognize that India has a large middle class. There are a lot of Indians who are traveling, for holidays to Australia and New Zealand. And if
so
we can get why not Fiji? And I want to invite, our Indian friends and families, who are looking for holidays. We have Fiji, it's a beautiful country full of beaches, full of, and we are nice people there. We really want Indian investment in Fiji, not only in the hotel sector or tourism sector, but in other areas as well. And so we are very confident that we would be able to entice Indian families, holiday makers to Fiji. And as part of our strategy in the Pacific, we want to push for a free, deeply integrated Pacific, and with Australia and New Zealand, and of course, India being part of Quad and India being part of the Indo-Pacific strategy offers this great opportunity for us in the Pacific to benefit from India's progress and India's development and India's drive to engage with all the countries in the region, particularly in the Pacific.
If I may focus a bit more on the Indo-Pacific, China plays an important role, for better or worse, in the region. Fiji has a comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership with China. How would you describe Fiji's China policy as it exists today under Prime Minister Rabuka?
Well, we've always had, like India, one China policy. We've had, office of Taiwan, as you have here, as many other countries which recognize China, which have one China policy. And we recognize, China is also a very big, developing country. It has a global role, and obviously, Fiji has its own, history with engagement with China, and so, we don't see any contradiction. But, we firmly believe in the principles of democracy, human rights, freedom, and that's why our Prime Minister is talking about, Pacific as a zone of peace. We realize the political power contestation also, and those are challenges that countries like Fiji have to deal with. And for us, our priority is to make sure that we progress our development within that framework of freedom, democracy, human rights, and good governance, transparency, and accountability.
But when we talk about China, many countries in the region and beyond, fear the issue of debt trap, for instance, or economic coercion, militarization of the Indo-Pacific. So how do you see Fiji's interests in the region given what is happening vis-a-vis China?
Well, again, I want to say this, and this is why our Prime Minister has been talking about Pacific as a zone of peace. And I think that means so many things. That means for us an economic strategy that is based on the best for our country and the best for the Pacific. We're talking about unity in the Pacific. We're talking about deeper and more meaningful regional integration amongst ourselves so that we are able to resist any kind of attempt to derail our development progress, whether it's through debt trap, whether it's through militarization. So these are issues that we are acutely aware as a country. And that is why Fiji is actually, leading, and our Prime Minister is leading this idea of Pacific as a zone of peace, so that these factors can be taken care of.
So do you also feel the pressure? Are you subjected to external pressure on certain counts?
Obviously.
Like I ask you this because Nauru, for instance, recently broke its ties with Taiwan and went along with China. So is there pressure on small island states in the region?
Well, I mean,
Fiji?
you can say that, and obviously, as I said, China is a big country. It has its own style of, managing its foreign policy. But as far as Fiji is concerned, as far as we are concerned, and as I said, our Prime Minister is very clear. Our government is very clear in terms of our own foreign policy and development agenda. So we keep that in mind all the time.
Mr. Minister, I'm approaching the end of my time, so I want to spend the next few minutes to help our viewers gain a better appreciation of the person behind the persona, as it were. Do you have a hobby, for instance, a favorite pastime?
Well, I like reading. So when I come to India, I buy a lot of books. I bought 5 books before the Christmas break, and I thought I'll read all of those 5, but I managed to finish 3. So 3 out of 5 was good.
And what do you love most? I mean, being an economist or being in politics?
Well, I'm not.
What's your first
I'm not too sure about that. Some people say that I'm still making a transition from being an academic to being a politician, but I think it's an important transition. Sometimes and I realize being in politics and being a professor before, and still sort of doing my little bit of academic work whenever I can, that good policy is not necessarily good politics, and good politics is not necessarily good economics or good policy. And so I think it does give me a much better perspective, in terms of balancing, the ability to manage, politics versus, good economic policies. Sometimes, politicians look at, short-term. Advisors, economists look long-term, medium-term. And so balancing it with politics, and politics is important. You can have the best economics, you can have the best politics, but if you don't get the politics right, all those economics and all those policies could fail miserably. So in that sense, I consider myself to be in a better position to actually navigate that through.
And do you make time, perhaps on weekends or whenever you can, to catch a Hindi film or listen to Hindi music? Do you?
I do watch. I have to confess that I do watch a lot of Hindi movies.
Any favorite movie or film stars?
I just watched the 12th Fail.
12th Fail, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great movie. But I do watch a little bit of TV series whenever I can get time.
Any favorite actor or actress?
The old ones, of course, everybody knows about Amitabh Bachchan. But yeah, there are quite a few.
All right, on that note, Mr. Minister, may I thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this special broadcast. But news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.